What's up? Welcome to MyFi. Glad you're here. Man, we got a cool episode for you today. Charlie Parra is on the show. He's a Peruvian guitarist. He's in a couple great bands. He got a great solo career. We're going to get all into it. I want to tell you right now, though, wherever you're listening, go ahead and click subscribe. If you're on Apple or Stitcher or Google or YouTube even, hit subscribe so you get the notifications when we drop new episode. We got some incredible guests coming up. Thanks to Anchor FM and Riverside FM, the platforms that we use for the MyFi Podcast. Man, let's get into it. Yes, so, man, excited about this episode. I can't wait for you guys to hear the conversation I had with Charlie Parra on today's episode. It was fantastic. And we will get into it. I actually met Charlie in Nashville during Creatures Fest back in May of this year, 2022. And it was funny. I went in to a venue there at Creatures Fest where Trickster was doing an acoustic show. And I was just singing my heart out to some Trickster songs. That was a big band for me when I was younger. And so I'm singing my heart out to all these songs. And later I ran into Charlie in the bar and grill there in the hotel. And he was like, "Oh man, I saw you singing, and oh man, you were singing every word. You were living your best life." And we had a laugh and just kind of chatted for a second. And he was just such a nice dude. I was like, "Man, I got to get Charlie on the show." And so I did, and man, it was great. He's in Lima, Peru. That's where he's from. And so it was a great experience, and can't wait for you to hear it. But man, crazy week, per the usual. You know what I'm saying? But one thing I worked on this week, I've been working on for a few months actually, just sitting around goofing off, wasting time. But I made a playlist of my top 10 albums of all time, and I'm going to briefly share those, and then I may over a couple episodes talk about it a little bit more. But I wanted to share that top 10, and also kind of feature one of those as the record of the week. You always have like a record of the week here on MyFi. So here it is, and maybe in the comments or whatever you want to share some of your favorites. So that'd be dope. Here's mine. Sticky Fingers, in no order, by the way. No, I can't put them in order. It would take me 6 more months. Sticky Fingers, the Rolling Stones. That one probably is my favorite album of all time, actually. Big Keith Richards guy. If you're watching on YouTube, I got a Keith Richards shirt on right now. Marquee Moon, Television. I heard The Edge talk about this record when I was younger in an interview. I went and listened to it, fell in love with it. Marquee Moon by Television. Pearl Jam Versus, incredible record. I remember buying that on a cassette tape. Actually, I went to a record shop with my uncle, took my older brother and I, and that was the record I bought that day. U2, Octung Baby, makes the list too. A lot of hits on that record, but my favorite U2 song of all time, Until the End of the World, is on that album. The Cure, Disintegration. Man, Fascination Street, one of my favorite songs of all time. A lot of great tunes on that record. The Cure is awesome. Radiohead, In Rainbows. I kind of went back and forth between In Rainbows and Hail to the Thief as my favorite. I know those aren't In Rainbows is pretty popular. Hail to the Thief wasn't. A lot of people would say OK Computer, also great. Kid A, also great. That was really close for me. But something about In Rainbows I just really enjoyed. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses, which actually Charlie and I talk about. And there is, the story he tells about him acquiring his first piece of music is just hilarious. Can't wait for you to hear it. Def Leppard, Hysteria, unbelievable. It's like a greatest hits album in an album. I don't remember. There was like 5, 6 top 40 hits on that record. It was enormous. What's the Story, Morning Glory, Oasis, cover to cover. You can listen straight through that album, never stop. It's just fantastic song after fantastic song. And The Police, Ghost in the Machine. Now, not one of the most popular, probably. Everybody thinks of Synchronicity, maybe with The Police, or Regatta, or some of the other records, but Ghost in the Machine has a song on it called Invisible Sun that I just love. I heard another band do a cover of that song. Figured out this was 20 something years ago. I figured out it was a cover, but I love that song. So I went and listened to the original, and the original obviously is, the best. And so then I start just tearing apart that album, and I just fell in love with that that record. And so that's the top 10. But my record of the week is Ghost in the Machine by The Police. I actually got a copy of it on vinyl a couple weeks ago. I have like an original copy that's great, but I got a copy of a half-speed master. I don't know exactly what all that entails, but Abbey Road Studios has put out a series of records that they've reissued that are half-speed masters. And so by slowing them down, I think they can just do a better job of separating things and making stuff more dynamic and making it cool to listen to and all that. If you're a tech head, I'm a little bit that way. I work with mixing music and all that sort of stuff, so I know a little bit about it. But I don't know the process exactly that they go through. But I'll tell you this, I listened to this copy of Ghost in the Machine against my original copy, and this half-speed master thing sounds amazing. If you can find one, you should go get it because it sounds fantastic. And if you've never heard Ghost in the Machine by The Police, throw it on. There's a couple songs on there you'll recognize. They had some hits on there. It was really cool. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Charlie, and then we're going to get into the episode today. So Charlie Parra, amazing metal guitarist. He's from Lima, Peru. He actually kind of got on the map on YouTube and social media because he did a cover, like a metal cover of the Peruvian national anthem, and it like blew up. He is an incredible follow on social media. He's an incredible shredder. I mean, he touches, I mentioned this in the show, but or in the interview, but the way he plays the guitar, it's so effortless. Obviously, I'm a guitar player as well. Maybe you didn't know that, but I play guitar as well. And man, just watching him play, he's one of the 4 or 5 dudes I've ever met in my life that I'm just like, oh my gosh, man, it's so effortless. And so you should go watch some of his videos. He's on social media at Charlie Parra Del Riego. And I'm going to put that in the show notes. I know it's kind of a long name. Charlie Parra, Parra Del Riego. And so go follow him on social media, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. He's at Charlie Parra Del Riego. And then same thing, youtube.com/Charlie Parra Del Riego, or you can just search on YouTube Charlie Parra and it's going to come up. Parra is Parra. Charlie, actually, I told you I met him in Nashville, but he was there performing with a band called Kuarantine. Kuarantine was actually a project, obviously, during quarantine that was started by Chris Jericho, who is a wrestler. If you don't know, he's a huge deal. He has a huge following. He's a really crazy, fun guy. He's also in a band called Fozzy. But during quarantine, the COVID quarantine, he started a project called Kuarantine with a K. And you can follow them. I'll put the link to follow Kuarantine too. And he got a bunch of people together. It's kind of a super group. Charlie Parra was part of that. But a guy named Kent, who plays drums for Luke Bryan, is in the band. PJ Farley from Trickster, Jericho. It really is like an all-star band. And they did like some Kiss covers and posted these things. And it was amazing. They were recording from all over the world, obviously, because the world was shut down at the time. And they performed live in Nashville, and it was just a blast. It was a party. Everywhere Jericho goes is a party. But Charlie talks in the show a lot about how that was a dream come true because he's also a wrestling fan, to be invited by Jericho to join Kuarantine and all those sorts of things. So Kuarantine's a big deal for Charlie, but he also has a great solo album out called Chaos and Redemption. It's fantastic. You should go listen to it. We talk a little bit about in the show too. He's got another solo album that's coming out in August, and you should listen to that when it drops as well. Go follow him on social media. Man, it was just a pleasure to have this conversation with him. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Charlie Parra. Charlie Parra, what is up, man? Am I saying your last name right?
Yes, actually, it's one of the few times it's been said properly. So I truly appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for that one.
Yeah, I had a friend here from Puerto Rico tell me it's not Parra, it's Parra. Is that right?
Yeah. It's
okay.
Mostly in the States, it's mostly like Charlie Parra, right?
Yeah.
But mostly like my friends like say Charlie Parra. Which it's totally, it's not that way at all. So thanks a lot, Lee. Thanks a lot.
Okay, good. Man, I'm trying. I loved, man, getting to know some of your music. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a ton of stuff. But tell us where you're at right now. Where are you broadcasting to us from?
Well, right now I'm in Lima, Peru. That's my hometown. I'm in Miraflores, which is a really nice city. And well, here's like my headquarters. Here's where I do most of my internet content. Here's where I do most of my guitar recordings.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't have a certain place where I do my blogs, because that's something that I do as well, like video blogs where I share experiences from touring experiences, like different places I got to perform live. So that's what I'm doing right now. So this is my
Nice.
headquarters for guitar content specifically.
Nice. Yeah. And you'll want to follow Charlie on YouTube, Instagram. He makes incredible content. He just did a cover I saw of the Kate Bush song Running Up That Hill that is blown up again with Stranger Things. That was really cool, man.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's a really nice song. Actually, I got to be honest that I have not watched that Stranger Things season. I
Yeah.
know I know about Eddie Munson because some guys started doing this meme of me next to Eddie Munson. Like,
I
like
haven't seen that. I need to
so
see that.
yeah. So and then a friend of mine that actually was at Creatures Fest. She actually sent me the song, and I thought it was really, really good, and it would sound good on guitar. So that's how it came out, right? Actually,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That's how.
My first guitar teacher was in a band.
Hmm.
This was like in the early 90s, mid 90s. He was in a band and they covered a bunch of Kate Bush. So in guitar
That's
lessons,
awesome.
I would learn whatever he was learning for his cover band. That was like how he taught lessons. And so
Oh yeah.
so I got introduced pretty early, but I'm just glad she's getting the notoriety, man. It's a great song, and man, you did a great job on that cover.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, for what I know, she's doing great right now about that, because that's actually her song. Like, there's no
Yeah.
one, in the middle. She's the
Yep.
main songwriter, the main publisher. So, man, she's doing great right now, and
Yeah.
she's doing great at home. That's
Yeah.
how good it is. She's doing great at home.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, man, hey, growing up in Lima, is that where you're from originally too? I know that's where you live now, but you're from there originally?
Yes, I'm from Lima, originally Lima, Peru. That's, born and raised. That's
Awesome.
how, I think that's the proper phrase, right? Born and raised Lima, Peru. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Tell me how you got like engaged in music. Like, do you have a memory of like the first music you ever heard that had an impact on you in your life?
Yeah, it's gonna sound fun a bit, though. There was this TV show, the Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, right?
Yes.
So the thing is that the theme song actually was great. I mean, it's great. The theme song is practically like a thrash metal song with a melodic metal guitar solo. So I think that was my first connection, not exactly with music, but probably my first connection with metal guitar. I gotta be honest, I never thought about it, but then I realized, hey, actually, I think that the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers song was the one that I said, wow, that sounds great.
That's amazing, dude.
I know it's not the usual thing, right?
Yeah, I would have never guessed.
I know. I can figure.
So what did that lead to? Did you start checking out other metal music and bands and stuff? How old were you at that time, and what did that lead to?
I was probably like 10 years old or 11 years old. But what I do remember is that I started playing guitar because it was a school thing. A school therapist told my parents that I should play guitar because that would help me to be a better student, as I was considered a problem child. I had a lot of but yeah, I had a lot of behavior issues while growing up. And the thing is that I started playing guitar like when I was 15, right? And I did not become a better student at all, but I already found out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I think that she did a great thing for me. I believe that I eventually would have found guitar, as I was a music fan. But I think that totally, probably, kick-started everything. That thing that she said that he should play guitar. Get
That's
the kid a
amazing.
guitar. Yeah,
Well,
that
well,
was
she was
a
right.
great thing. Oh, thank you. I
Yeah, she
believe
was right,
so.
dude. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, she did a great thing for me. I gotta say that, man.
Have you talked to her since? Have you talked to the school counselor since then?
No, I haven't, but I know she doesn't work in in my high school anymore or anything. But I know she works in a hospital, in a medical center that it's actually pretty close to my place.
Oh
So
yeah.
I wonder when I'm gonna meet her again, and just gotta say thank you, because I should thank her for that.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. She hit it. If you've never seen videos of Charlie playing, he's one of those guys that has hands that are just so smooth on the guitar. I've been watching a bunch of videos, getting ready for this interview and stuff, and man, it's just so great. Like I love watching people who are just so effortless. And man, maybe 2, 3 people in my life I've ever really watched play guitar that I go, man, it looks like you're not even trying. You know,
I, I get that comment a lot. Like one of those comments that pops up every day is, he makes it look so easy.
yeah,
And I find it like, the ultimate compliment,
yeah,
because it's like, if that looks easy, that means that I'm probably look like I'm having a great time, that I'm
yeah,
having a
yeah,
blast doing it, right?
yeah.
Even if it's probably the 10th or 15th take, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. I agree. And I mean it as a compliment. I'm sure that you practice like crazy, to get there and put in the work. I know that happens, but it works because it looks so effortless, when I see you playing videos, or when I saw you guys in Nashville, with Quarantine.
Oh man, I gotta tell you that I do practice a lot. Like I do practice, like play guitar in a daily basis. I
Yeah.
think that it's way more productive to play guitar like for, I don't know, 30 minutes a day or 1 hour a day, instead of not playing guitar for a week and then grabbing
Yeah.
the guitar like for a lot of hours. I think that in a daily basis is the best thing to do. But that thing with Quarantine is something that I consider a very special thing, because I did not practice to join Quarantine. I basically trained to
Wow.
join Quarantine. Yeah, I saw it like one of those things that don't happen very often. Actually, it's one of those things that don't happen. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's been it's been too much. Like the quarantine thing, it's been too much. I think that the guys do not know how impactful that has been for me in my career, because I come from I live like miles away,
Yeah.
like literally miles away, like the Winger song. So it is
That's good.
it is a pretty interesting situation. And besides, I mean, Chris Jericho is fronting that band,
Yeah.
so it makes it even more like it's like a really cool story. It's a really really cool story. When actually he asked me to join the band, I couldn't believe it, because at first I was going to just fill in. I was going to be a replacement
Yeah.
for the lead guitar player, who is Joe McGuinness, who is a badass guitar player,
Yeah.
awesome guitar player. And thing is that I do believe that we have pretty different styles, like playing styles. And I trained for that gig. I had to train for that gig. That's how I see it. I mostly practice and learn the songs, and go into a rehearsal schedule.
Hmm.
But this time I trained for that gig. I really wanted to, to do a not a good job. I wanted to do a great job.
Yeah.
And as I get, it's gonna sound fun, but as I get older, I appreciate those opportunities more and more, because I've had really really cool uh, gigs and stuff. I was in a band that actually Gene Simmons was an executive producer there.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was a long time ago. But the thing is that this time it was, I found it like as a totally different thing, like something that would change things
Yeah.
for me in a lot of ways, at least career wise. And it has. It has. It sounds like I'm maybe overexcited or overreacting, but it has big time. It's like one of those things that mean a lot, and it does. My
That's
quarantine
awesome.
gig means a lot. Yeah, man, it's really awesome.
Well, when you started, I want to go back a little bit. Quarantine's where
Right.
Quarantine's where you're at now. The solo
Mhm.
record, Chaos and Redemption, is fantastic. You should go
Yeah.
listen to that if you never heard Charlie's
Oh,
solo stuff. It's awesome. I want to go
thank
back right after the Power Rangers theme
Mhm.
song inspired you. What were some bands? You get your first guitar. What were
Mhm.
some bands that you really got into at that point that are still inspired you then? Maybe they still inspire you now, but maybe it was just something that kind of got you
Mhm.
started back then too.
Well, it's kind of, I'm going to sound a little bit like a cliche guy here, a cliche guy of my age,
That's
right?
okay.
It's like I loved Guns N' Roses so much. I wanted to be Slash. I wanted to, play every guitar solo on the Appetite for Destruction album.
Yes.
And I also was so hooked with Randy Rhodes, Ozzy Osbourne. I loved his, it's unique. It's like I'm a pretty big fan of every guitar player that has been in Ozzy Osbourne, right? Like Zach Wild, Gus G, Jake E. Lee, everyone. But I
Mhm.
think that, and actually I'm a good friend with Gus, which is really awesome. We've done music together and everything. We
That's
played together
awesome.
at the Whiskey A Go Go. Yeah, man, it's small world. Uh, but I gotta say that Randy Rhodes, Mr. Crowley, is a masterclass. It's a guitar masterclass,
Oh yeah.
and I think that at that point, that was year two. That was the year 2000. I was 15, so
Wow.
there were no guitar solos on the mainstream, right? There
Hmm.
was pop punk, new metal, and that's it.
Some of the British
There's
stuff I think was big back then. Like I remember that was like the era of like Coldplay and
yeah, definitely
Keen
the
and bands like
British.
that.
Yes, Keen, Coldplay. There was this band Travis. There
Hmm.
were yeah, and none of these bands had. They have great guitar arrangements, great guitar tones, but there were no guitar solos. So when I started searching for that, I went back to the 80s, right?
Hmm.
So it was kind of fun because to most people, the 80s at that point, at year 2000, the 80s was something like old. It was old. It was old fashioned. It
Yep.
was, kind of a boomer thing, right?
Hmm.
But to me, that was absolutely new. It was something absolutely new. I couldn't believe how new it was. And those kind of, 80s stuff, I love it. It's like I'm obsessed with 80s music, like, a lot of guitar players do, but I see it in a general thing. It's like I'm not just obsessed with the guitar music, but it's like if you, see my playlists,
Yeah.
I can have guitar music, but I also have lots of like new wave music, like
Mhm.
post punk music. You can, find the B-52s. You can find a flock of seagulls. You can find Kate Bush. You can find a lot of pretty different stuff. Devo.
Yeah.
Um, so New Order. I love New Order so much,
Mm.
and that's why I get so excited when I watch retro things. I don't know, like the movie The Wedding Singer,
Yeah.
right? That kind of stuff. It's the kind of things that I do believe that the 80s was so colorful. That because I don't know, growing in the 90s, because I grew up in the 90s, to be honest.
Hmm.
Uh, the 90s were kind of dark,
Hmm.
right? They were
Yeah.
kind of dark. And the 80s, the 80s, of course, had their dark side, right? They had their dark side. There was a lot of, darky and gothy stuff. but it was so colorful at the same time. It's like I can be listening to Siouxsie at the Banshees, and the
Yeah.
next song can be Huey Lewis and the News. So I think that that's the reason why I'm so obsessed about it. It's like before we started talking, I was like scrolling to see where I could go this weekend after the show I have to play tomorrow because I would like to dance some 80s stuff.
Yeah.
So I was looking, yeah. It's like, do you remember this movie Rockstar with Marky Mark?
Oh yeah, yeah. Totally, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Most of my friends think that my thing with Quarantine is similar to the Marky Mark story because everybody, because I'm a huge wrestling fan, like
Yeah.
huge wrestling fan, big time. It's like right now behind me is like some of my guitars, right? But in that corner, there's my wrestling shrine. So I got even Mexican masks and stuff. So thing is that when Jericho asked me to join the band, it was like a dream come true, right? And it
Yeah.
happened, and it was during, the pandemic. So it was even more, more difficult because it was like you cannot travel overseas if you're not vaccinated. You cannot do a lot of things because it's the pandemic, right? There's no shows anymore. There's no nothing. But this show is going to be in a cruise, right?
Yeah.
So it's the Jericho cruise, right? So
Mhm.
it was like a perfect situation at the worst time ever,
Yeah.
right? So nobody from my friends still can't believe that this is happening. Like when I
That's so
released
awesome.
the quarantine video, when it was released on my YouTube channel actually.
Hmm.
And when my friends saw that, it was, dude, they actually trusted you, the video clip, to be on your YouTube channel,
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
right? I've never done that before because, yes, I'm a guitar player and everything, but I'm also a content creator, like a blogger, right?
Yep.
And then I gotta release the official video clip there. So that was a huge responsibility, but I think that the guys are really happy about it.
Totally.
Because people are watching the video, they're commenting the video, and we did. I think that I was so paranoid about that the video does well,
Hmm.
and YouTube right now is such a competitive platform
Yeah.
that I'm so glad that it is doing well. But what I was trying to tell you about the movie with Marky Mark is that. There's this part where they actually perform their first gig and it goes crazy good. And then they go to this club and it's like non-metal related. Not a single guitar chord is there. And they're dancing to Frankie Goes to Hollywood Relax.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that those are those little details that I think that make the whole music experience complete. It's like, you rock the guitar and you don't necessarily have to go to an after party with guitars and more metal
Yeah.
and more shredding. No, you can enjoy a totally different type of music. But of course, it has to be related somehow. That's why, I'm still adamant about the 80s thing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first piece of music? I'm guessing because you were born around 1990, you probably bought a CD first. Do you remember what that was with your own money? What was the first piece of music you bought with your own money?
This is really hard for me to say because I did not buy my first album. I actually stole it. And yeah, I know. It sounds bad. It sounds really bad. But, I was getting, I don't know what's the name of this, but when you're a Catholic, there's this thing here in South America that, 99% of people are Catholics. Even if you're not a Catholic, you got to do Catholic stuff. So I was getting ready to, I don't know, how do you call it? The first communion, I don't know what's the name of it in English.
No, that's it. I'm from Louisiana, dude. So it's kind of the same thing. Like everybody everybody in Louisiana is like associated with Catholic something. You know, at some point, you know, it's kind of French, so everybody's sort of associated. So I get it.
Yeah. So the thing is that I was going to these meetings with Catholic people that they are teaching you about, baby Jesus, and they're teaching you about, the gospel and how to be, those things that super Catholic fans do.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is that I was probably 9 or 10 back in that moment. And we went to this, like pastor, I don't know the shepherd, something like that.
Yep.
And the thing is that the shepherd had this son who was a rocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that this guy had the Appetite for Destruction album.
Oh.
Right? In a cassette tape. It was a cassette, not even a CD.
Nice.
It was a cassette. And I saw the cover, and it's a cross, right?
Yeah.
It's a cross. It's like baby Jesus related. So I see a cross, and I said, man, why there's a cross and there's like, skulls here? And I played the tape, and I was hooked. Thing is that they wanted to, make us, confess to the priests. I was 10, so I did not have enough things to confess, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, I think I'm going to steal this and I'm going to confess about it.
That's awesome.
And I know. And I stole the tape. I took it home. The kid was going insane because he didn't know where his cassette was.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's terrible. And here's the best part of the story. Like 25 years later, I get to open for Slash for the second time. And I brought that tape to the show. And I was backstage with Slash. And I told him, please, can you sign this for me? And he did.
That's awesome.
He signed my stolen tape, man.
That's fantastic.
I know. And the best thing is that Slash is such a great guy. It was such a great experience. He also hand signed this is something really cool, that I am actually the first South American artist to have 2 signature models in the Gibson USA Corporation with Kramer guitars.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and the first model ever, the first prototype, I took it to that show and Slash hand signed it. And the best thing about it was that before he signed it, he told me, hey, Charlie, are you sure? I'm going to wreck your guitar. I was like, dude, please sign it. I was going to swear right now. Can I say bad words here?
Yeah.
I told, dude, just fucking sign the fucking guitar, man. I mean, it's like, how the fuck he's going to say he's going to ruin my guitar? It's like Slash. And yeah, man, that's how it happened. Actually, my first album was stolen. It's like, I'm not proud, but I don't regret it.
Yeah. Do you still have that prototype guitar that he signed?
What?
Do you still have that? You still have that guitar that he signed?
Yeah, for sure. It's my first signature guitar. Yeah, man. And
do you play it, or is it hung up somewhere?
It's the one I used in the Kate Bush video.
Really?
Yeah, I do not use that guitar live often. Mainly because first, I'm promoting the second one more right now because this one sold really well. But at the same time, it's because I know there's people that want to have this guitar in particular, and it's not good people. So it has to stay home for now.
Yeah. Well, man, congrats on the signature models. I actually saw something recently where you were talking about why you didn't put a Floyd Rose on it. Like for listeners, if you're not a guitar player, a Floyd Rose is a tremolo that it's like a whammy. Some people call it a whammy bar or whatever, but you can kind of pitch bend the notes and stuff. So if you're not a guitar player, you may not understand what that is, but guitar players will grab the bar and sort of bend the pitch up and down, that sort of thing. But anyway, I saw a video. I thought it was really interesting, only because that sound was so big in the 80s for what most people call shred guitar or whatever, to be able to do the Eddie Van Halen dive bomb horsey things, you know what I'm saying? So it was really interesting that you chose to not put one on there. I didn't even notice that, and I saw you play live, and then I've watched half a dozen videos on your YouTube channel, and I never noticed that you didn't have a Floyd on there. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah.
I think that's because I'm a big fan of. I've said this before. It's like I'm afraid of two things in life: taxes and breaking a string with a Floyd Rose system, because there's no coming back from that one.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I'm a big fan of. Of course, I love shredding. I love the '80s and everything, but I also love Jimmy Page. I love Billy Duffy.
Yeah.
I love Jordy from Killing Joke. He's one of my favorite guitar players ever. And they do not use the tremolo bar. Slash does not use the tremolo bar.
Yeah, I think that the Mockingbird he plays is the only guitar I've ever seen a bar on.
Yeah, but that's pretty interesting, because I try to mix something that goes between modern and classic. And I think that not having a Floyd Rose system and having, the Tune-o-matic, the classic one, the super old one, the one from the Les Pauls, it's something that is a sacrilege for a lot of 80s players.
Yeah.
But I think that I have developed some, techniques and stuff that I can actually do dive bombs and the whammy bar sound without a whammy bar.
Yeah.
And I've developed that thanks to a lot of players I've seen, like Phil X. I love him.
Man, he's amazing.
He is amazing. Such a sweetheart. And I think those are those details that, for example, people tell me, man, if you put a Floyd Rose on your signature guitar, I would buy it, right? Man, in that case, I said, then it wouldn't be my signature guitar.
Yeah.
Get a fucking Busy Reach or something. That would be my guitar. So that's pretty much the reason why I don't use the tremolo system. It's not that I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's that I hate it.
Yeah.
It's
scary.
It's personal. Yeah. I worked in bars when I was a really young kid. When I was like 18. And I had a guitar with a really, really cheap Floyd Rose system there. Like, it's like when guitar brands have their, like, low budget area.
Yeah.
Floyd Rose seems that they have their super, super, super low budget area. And I got to play with one of these guitars with a super low budget Floyd Rose, and it was hell. It was hell. It made my life horrible for a long time as a guitar player and working in bars as a kid. I used to play with musicians that were way older than me back then, like people that were my age right now, like in their late 30s, and being a kid that was, fighting for his dream of being a guitar player, but couldn't fight for this dream because his guitar was constantly going out of tune and snapping strings and taking forever to change a string because that was the only guitar I had. I said, I'm never in my life going to have a guitar with this system unless it is a Kramer 84 or a Beretta.
Yeah.
That I will never play, but I would love to have that in my collection.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's how the hatred started.
Yeah.
And I don't care what people tell me. It's not gonna happen. It's like I've lived the experience of hell with Floyd Rose, and I think it's very innovative. And for God's sake, I love what Eddie Van Halen did with it. I love what
Sure.
Dimebag Darrell did with it. I
Yeah.
love what Brad Gillis of Night Ranger does with it.
Mm-hmm.
What a great player.
Yeah.
But that's not my thing. Not my thing. Not my thing like back then. Not now. Not ever.
That's hilarious, dude. Do you remember? Because at some point, I'm sure that you saw somebody who inspired what became your signature guitar, even your sound, just inspired you in general. But it always starts with like, it always starts with the first show you ever saw. And for me, like I remember that show. I talk about it a lot with people when we have music conversations. But what was the first show you ever saw, live concert show that just inspired you?
I gotta say that my first show was a metal show here in Peru, which was a really, I gotta say, it was a small show. It was so metal and so underground, you could barely hear the notes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that was very inspiring. So what really inspired me a lot was watching 80s documentaries.
Oh yeah.
The decline of the Western civilization, part two, the metal years. That inspired me a lot because I saw the struggle on, the struggling musicians that were struggling to make it.
Yeah.
Which kind of impressed me in a way because that's something that I can relate to the punk rock scene a lot. These metalheads, they were all searching to be signed by, record companies. They wanted a record contract. They were fighting for it.
Yeah.
But the punk rock guys, they were all about do it yourself. They didn't care about the record company. They didn't care about getting signed. They were playing, delivering the message, doing their thing. And I think that's pretty much what has been happening, at least for the last 10 years of, guitar music. Lots of guitar players have come out of the internet or have come out of the real undergrounds. Yeah. And there's no record companies around there. No record companies. It's been like mostly like a fan thing. Like fans have supported their artists. And I think the internet had a lot to do. Right now, it's like, it's so saturated and it's so like, it's like a content war, right? It's like a production war. Like everybody's like doing like 5 TikToks a day, 10 reels a week, and people get burned out.
Yeah.
People get burned out. So, going back to the inspiration thing, when I saw the Balls to the Walls video.
Oh yeah.
Wolf Hoffman and his flying bee and his white sneakers. That shocked me. That was like, how cool is that? Yeah. And he had great hair back then. So that was shocking. I actually got to open for Accept like 4 years ago.
Oh wow.
That was pretty. Yeah, I've opened for several acts, like for Accept, Mr. Big, The Cold, Slash, Fear Factory, Sonata Arctica. I could go on and on, man.
Wow, man.
But yeah, man, that moment, Wolf Hoffman with his flying bee, rocking out in Balls to the Walls video clip. That was awesome to watch, man. That was great.
That's awesome. Do you, I know you talked, you got the quarantine thing going on. What do you have coming up? Either solo, what do you want to talk about a little bit? Let our listeners know just, what do you have coming up? What are you working towards? You working towards another solo record? Is Quarantine going to do some more live stuff? Tell us what you got going on?
Well, right now, actually, I'm working on my new solo record.
Awesome.
Which is with a really cool band. We have put together really cool 8 songs there. Angelo Batio, who is one of my influences, is playing in the album. He just sent me his track, and it's awesome. It's like I can't believe I had access to, his isolated track for a song. That has been
Wow, man,
awesome
yeah.
because his, I, I don't want to, say this like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a total tool, but listening to Michelangelo Batio's, isolated guitar track, it's like you can tell, you can listen to every note,
Wow.
every single note, and he's like super fast, but you can listen to every note. It's amazing. He's really good. He's that good.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Dino Caceres of Fear Factory is in the album as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And this album should come out maybe the first week of August. Because
good, yeah.
right now it's being mixed by Adair Daffenbach, who is a Brazilian producer, sound engineer. He's right now in LA. He's been working with Tony McAlpine, with Kiko Loureiro as well, with Luis Khalil, with really cool names. So what I wanted to do was to work with someone that, I could work with someone here in South America, right? Or in Peru, right? And I think it would sound well. It would sound cool. But you know what? I don't want to sound good for my hometown. I want to sound good for the world, right? I want to go into a different standard. I want to go to a different sound, a different level. So I realized that if I keep doing the same things, I will have the same results. Mm-hmm. But if I do different moves, I might have different results. And that's why I'm going there with him. So yeah, late August, it's going to be really cool. And yeah, man, I'm having a great time, writing this music and doing the video clips and stuff. It's really fun because in the meantime, I also get to tour with Kuarantine. Well, right now we don't have any touring plans because, Chris is, if I have to use one word to define Chris, is busy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he's busy because he wants to be busy. He seems like he loves it. And I don't see any tour coming, but I know we're going to play together at least a couple more gigs this year. So I'm excited. I cannot wait for that because, actually Kuarantine is a super group. PJ Farley is there. PJ is a really big name here in Peru because of Trickster.
Yeah.
And Ken Slosher, who is the drummer, he plays with Luke Bryan.
Yeah.
I think he's, I know that he's huge in the States. Like he only plays stadiums and arenas, but actually country music does not exist in South America. So I had no idea when they told me he plays with Luke Bryan. I was like, oh my God. I was how am I going to say that? I don't know who Luke Bryan is. But now I know thanks to the drummer in my band. Yeah. How cool is that?
That's awesome, man.
How cool is that, man? I know.
That's awesome. Man, I've loved the conversation, bro. I want to tell everybody, make sure that you're following Charlie on Instagram. It's at Charlie Parra Del Riego. And you can, it's kind of long, but listen, I'm going to put it in the show notes so you can just go click the link to follow Charlie on Instagram. You can follow him. His YouTube channel is incredible. He posts a lot of content there too. Great videos, covers, his solo stuff. There's a couple more interviews, other shows and things that he does. So make sure you follow his YouTube channel is probably the primary place to keep up with what Charlie's got going on. Man, I just want to say thanks, dude. It looks like your career is just taking off, and I appreciate you taking the time all the way from Peru to be on the show today. And man, I wish you the best.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I truly appreciate that you had me on your podcast. I practiced some English this morning talking to you, so I appreciate it very much. Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I'm practicing this. So what I do know is that people actually think that I'm from San Diego, California when I talk to them in English.
Yeah, it's great, man. You did a great job.
Thank you so much, Lee. I truly appreciate. Like my good friend Steve Brown from Trickster would say, "Thank you so much, baby."
Yeah. Hey, funny. Steve's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. So.
Oh, that's great, man. Steve, I consider Steve one of my best friends in the world of guitar. I consider him a brother, a mentor. He's so awesome, man. It's like one of the best things that, touring with Kuarantine has given me. It's being friends with Steve. What a great man. What a great player. And, I love his accent. He's so
no doubt.
good.
Well, we got in a little promotion. Man. We got in a little promotion for some shows coming up too. So, man, thank you so much, Charlie. I really appreciate it, dude. I wish you all the best, and we'll keep up with what you got going on. Thanks for being on the show, bro.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
You too. Man, what a great conversation. What a nice dude. So thankful to have had that conversation with Charlie. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't know that I'll ever have another story about someone purchasing their first, or acquiring, not purchasing, but acquiring their first piece of music more interesting and hilarious than Charlie stealing a copy of Appetite for Destruction and then later in his life getting Slash to sign that actual copy. That's amazing. Thanks for listening today. Follow Charlie, like I mentioned. Follow him on social. Follow him on YouTube. He's hilarious. He's kind. He's incredibly talented. Can't wait for that new solo record that's going to drop in August. He's at Charlie Del Riego on Instagram and social, and then youtube.com/Charlie Parra. Sorry, Charlie Parra Del Riego on Instagram, and then the same thing on YouTube. Make sure you follow him. Again, all this is in the show notes. All the bands, groups, artists, guitar players we talked about, I always list those in the show notes. So in case you missed something and you're like, oh, I want to go listen to that band or check that out a little bit more, you can just go down in the show notes and see the list of bands, and hopefully it'll jog your memory, and you can go check out some of the bands that we talked about. I always want to thank Anchor FM and Riverside FM for providing the platform for us to do MyFi, and remind you to follow MyFi on social. Follow us at MyFi Podcast on all the social stuff, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, whatever. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe to the YouTube channel. Got some great guests coming up. I mentioned in the show, we both know Steve Brown. Steve Brown's from Trickster and Tokyo Motor Fist and some other. He's coming up on an episode. Britt Lightning from the band Vixen is coming up on the show as well. So we got some great guests lined up for the next month or so, and so make sure you got your notifications on, you subscribe, all that good stuff, so you can get them there. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a great one.